Welcome back to another video. This time we're going to be going over keyboard events inside Logix. This has come up a lot in the Discord of late because people want to sort of make various things happen in desktop mode when they push various keyboard keys. So yep, let's go ahead and go over it. I'll show you how to do it. Let's hop over here into Smooth POV, and then we can go ahead and grab our Logix tip. Inside the Node browser, you want to be going inside the Input Devices keyboard folder, and then you'll see the three nodes that we'll be talking about today: key held, key pressed, and key released. So these are all the three nodes that we'll be talking about. Type delta is for another video. A little bit weird, that one. So key held is going to be when you're holding down the key. Key pressed is just when you push it, and key released is when you release it. To explain that a little bit more, I use my finger. So nothing being pushed. Key pressed will be the downstroke of the key. Key held will be while it's down. And then key released will be when you release it back up to not being pressed. For the purpose of this video, we'll just be using key pressed, but key released will work almost identically. Key held is a little bit different because you'll get a constant signal coming out whilst it is being held down. Let's do key pressed. So spawning key pressed into the world here, you'll see it's a deceptively simple node. There's an input, which if we drag a ribbon out and push secondary, you'll see it's one of these. This is what's called an enum input, and it's basically a list of known values. When you see this, it's a list of known values. So we know that there's always going to be a known set of keyboard keys. The keyboard keys aren't going to change. And for those who are saying like, hey, maybe it will in the future, yeah, maybe it will in the future, and a next build of Neos will update this list for you. The point is right now, there is a known list, so you can scroll through it like this, and that's called an enum in technical terms. So you can scroll here through this list and find the key that you like. I do find this sometimes kind of tedious, and if that's like you can go ahead and pull off this ribbon here, find the key that you like, and start saving these somewhere in your inventory. If there's a key that you use a lot, just go ahead, save that, and then this will always refer to quote, and you can plug it in whenever you need it. There's some nodes coming whenever I get round to them that might make that a little bit easier. When those come out, I'll make another video about them. For now, I'm going to go ahead and keep scrolling through till I get to a key I can use whilst I'm in VR. So I think we'll go to, I'm going to go all the way to Q. It's just I know exactly where Q is. An earlier take of this video I used Q, so we'll use Q again. And we'll plug this back in. Now the output here is a Boolean. Now you might expect it to be, hey, maybe an impulse, because then you can pick that up based on an impulse. But no, it's a Boolean. And we'll talk about why in a moment, but I just want to show you this working. So if I go ahead and go to my keyboard, a little bit difficult here. I found the keyword key Q and push Q. You'll see that this flashes to true for just a second. You'll see that flashing. And that means that is being picked up. Now there are a lot of caveats with this node. The first being that, hey, it is local, which means this value will be local for whoever is pushing that key. So if you're pushing the key or someone else is pushing the key, they'll see different values coming out of here. And that's because there's no user in this area. There's nothing to tell us which user is pushing that key. So the common question then is, well, how do we know, who is pushing the key then? And that's where we start getting into a few more Logix nodes. Let's go ahead and take a look at these. So first of all, and your first instinct if you've been watching videos a while or are familiar with Neos, is that you might go to flow fire on true and plug this in. And then, hey, find Q again. Oh, I'm under the map. No, I'm above the map. The perils of doing this on keyboard. And you'll see that we get an impulse here. But I want to talk to you a few things about this, which is, hey, I want you to always plug a user into this user input to fire on true. Linked in the video description is a wiki page that talks about fire on true and specifically links to the page about what happens with this user being blank. And so it's always advisable to put a user in there. Additionally, I don't want you to put in local user in there because that can cause issues. So do not do this. It will technically work, but what actually happened here is you've effectively removed the user detection point of the entire application and gone back to, hey, when anyone pushes it, make an impulse. And there's actually a better way to do that. So don't do local user. Let's say you wanted to know if a specific user did it. There's a few ways to do that. You can first of all use the host user one. That totally works. And that would be, hey, the host pushes the button. So that's like, hey, maybe it's a sort of admin command, push Q and it restarts the session. Who knows? That's one way. The other things that you can do are the get active user nodes. These are great for things like tools and avatars. Basically, if the input to get active user is parented to the user. So for example, if this is the root of my avatar, then that'll be, hey, if I'm wearing that avatar, this will fire and fire for me. And you can also do get active user self, which will be for the user that this is parented to. And if you've packed logics into a gun and you're holding it, or packed it into an avatar and you're equipping it, then getActiveUserSelf will also be you, because you're in the hierarchy. This node is parented to you. So that's how you can do it for a specific user. This will only come out when that specific user pushes that keyboard key. There's another way to do that, though, if you wanted it to be any user pushing the keyboard key and to get an impulse out and to avoid that local user going into fire on true. And that's the user node that I don't believe I've talked about before, or if I haven't mentioned it enough, which is local fire on true. If you plug this in, then you'll get an event out of here when any user pushes that keyboard key, and there won't be any sort of duplication problems. It's the better way to do it when you want to plug into fire on true. You want to plug in local user. Just use local fire on true instead. It's exactly the same, and you'll have better luck. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it's what you should be doing. In this case, though, I sometimes get questions. It's like, well, how do I know who pushed the button then in this case? There's no user involved. And that's where local user comes back in. This may sound like I'm being hypocritical because I'm bringing local user back in, but local user is not fine to use in fire on true, but it is generally okay to use sort of everywhere else that you want to use it. There might be a couple of exceptions there. Ones that come to mind are the other fire on nodes, so don't use it with fire on false or fire on change. But for this particular application, it is perfect. When this event comes out, this impulse will be owned by the user who pushes the keyboard key. Because this impulse is owned by that user, the output of local user will also be that local user. These two things are always in sync. If it's a local impulse, local user will be the user who pushes the button. So to use that, we could, for example, go to user username, and then go ahead and grab a write node, plug these in, that in, then get ourselves a register, plug this in, get an output, and then when I push Q, it will write my username to this string variable. So let me find Q again. There it is. And you'll see my name gets written here. And if anyone else pushes the keyboard key in this world, it will write their name. The last person to push the Q key will be written to this variable. There you go, that's how you do it. If you're wanting to do it for an avatar, I recommend the fire on true approach. If you want to do it for a weapon, a gun, a gadget, a tool, I recommend the fire on true approach, and that is flow, like we set up before, float fire on true, with the second input being getActiveUser or getActiveUserSelf, where this is plugged into the root of the tool, gun, or avatar, and that way you know it's the person that is actively responsible for that object that is going to trigger that event. Then based on that output, anywhere an impulse can plug in, you can do something. You could, create an object with duplicate slot. You could apply some force, and then you've got like a gravity gun or whatever you want to do. You can do anything that takes an impulse with those particular node setups. That's how keyboard events work. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. See you later.